All right. So, yes, we'll be talking today about the PhD in educational psychology. I'm just going to turn on, closed captioning because sometimes that can be helpful for the people. All right. Let's see. Okay. So today we're talking about the PhD in educational psychology. My name is Alyssa Yusko. I'm the director of the Pathways into Education Center. Our office, or the PIE Center, PIE, Pathways into Education. Our office advises on all of the programs within the School of Education, graduate and undergraduate. We work with prospective students, current students, answering any questions that students have about the School of Education. So great place to go as your first point of contact. And usually we can answer your questions. And if we can't, we're going to find whoever it is that can. So the PhD in educational psychology, the way that I like to think about it is when we're thinking about education, the knowledge that people learn and retain, and the psychology piece is how they do it. Our program is research-based. We are a research institution, and this is a PhD program. So it's conceptualize research problems, design research strategies, and conduct studies in educational psychology. So that's one of the sort of foundations of our program. The other is to relate human behavior, cognition, and development to the educational process with diverse populations in multiple settings. I am going to just pause for a moment and introduce Dr. Gabriel Schlomer, who is the Division Director for Educational Psychology. Hi, Dr. Schlomer. If you don't mind just introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about yourself, and yeah, welcome.
Hi. So sorry I'm late. My laptop was being a little bit temperamental. I usually work in the office, but today I'm home. So we use the technology that we have access to. So I'm Dr. Gabriel Schlomer. I am an associate professor in Ed Psych and Methodology. I'm also currently the division director of Ed Psych and Methodology. I won't get into all the divisions and the department structure, but we're one division within a larger department. Um, Part of my job is to help run and recruit for the PhD program to make sure everything goes smoothly. And I'm happy to be here to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you so much. So the program, like we mentioned, it's located within the Department of Educational and Counseling Psychology, Division of Educational Psychology. The program is a minimum of 66 credits. So we say minimum because we also take into account the credits that you're enrolled in while completing your dissertation. So 66 plus dissertation, with 15 credits of core courses in development, learning, special education, research methods, statistics. There are doctoral specific courses, an additional 15 credits, some advanced coursework, some additional statistics and research courses, helping you to prepare for your own individual research and your dissertation. You're able to take doctoral electives and a scholarly writing course. The program requires 15 credits focused on research, 3 credits in a professional apprenticeship completed in an area relevant to professional goals, typically as an instructor of an undergraduate course. I think I mentioned the electives on the previous page, so sorry if that's redundant. Students also fulfill a research tool requirement, which is typically fulfilled through a course, project, or academic paper, and not necessarily as an additional sort of entity. Pre-dissertation research requirements, so some type of research experience prior to moving on to your own individual dissertation, comprehensive exam, and a dissertation, the final culminating project. I'm not going to read this, and this is not meant to overwhelm you, but more to give you an idea. If you just sort of glance around at some of the courses that are offered or required in this program, about the type of coursework that you would be taking in this program. I like to put these things on the screen for our prospective students because I think it gives a little bit more of a reality to the program when you can actually see the types of things that you might be learning about. So just to highlight a few, you're looking at different courses focused on human development at different stages of life. The learning courses are learning about the mechanisms of the way that people learn and develop. The focus on research, the research methods courses, the measurement and evaluation courses, and the statistics courses. So there's lots of variety in the courses that we offer. And so this is just to give you an idea of that. Oh, additional courses. So we have you'll see that a lot of them are these EPSY. Those are the educational psychology courses, but students in this program also typically will take some special education courses just because of the way that special education and educational psychology sort of go hand in hand, and the closeness within those divisions within the School of Education. So some information for applicants, what is required for our program: transcripts from all schools attended, 3 letters of recommendation with 2 from instructors or professors, a statement of goals, and GRE scores for this program are optional. This program has a fall start only, with a deadline of January 15th, whether you wish to be considered for a departmental assistantship or not. I am just going to mention this now because I don't know if I have this in another slide, that because this is a fall start, sometimes we have students who are thinking, well, I'd like to start making some moves in the direction toward my degree right now. I'm eager to get started. And so for students in that situation, I'll often recommend non-degree study, where you can apply as a non-degree student and take coursework right here at UAlbany within your department where the program is that you're applying to. So in this case, educational psychology. You can take a couple of courses that would count toward the degree if you are accepted. So it doesn't guarantee that you're accepted to the program, but it certainly does allow you to start to gather some momentum, get a feel for the coursework, and make progress while you're sort of waiting for your time in the program to start. So I do like to mention that. So additional admission, oh, we have someone with a question. Thanks, Noah.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm not sure
Yes,
if
I
it's
can.
Hi.
Yeah.
So what you were saying about what was it called? You were just saying the
Non-degree. Yeah. So
non-degree.
basically you're non-matriculated and you're just taking coursework, but you can choose to take coursework in a specific department.
What would excuse me, what would the application for that look like, or is it very similar to the PhD?
Very great question. It's not similar to the PhD application. It's typically much less involved, where you might need transcripts and a resume, or even sometimes a statement of goals is required. Sometimes it isn't. It depends on which department you're applying to. The application is typically cheaper and processed more quickly and has less components to it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Another thing worth considering also is while the PhD only does fall admits, and we only review applicants in a batch in the spring, our master's program has rolling admissions and review. So if you wanted to do something a little more substantial than going as a non-degree student, you could apply to our master's program, take classes as a master's student. And a lot of the classes that we have for the PhD in the early parts of the PhD are very similar to the ones that are in the master's program. So you could, as another option, apply to the master's program, get admitted, say, for the spring, take some classes, and then decide if you wanted to go ahead and matriculate into the PhD program if you applied and were given an offer.
Thank you. So some additional admission requirements include a minimum of 12 credits of coursework, undergraduate or graduate, in psychology, educational psychology, education, or a related field, and at least one of the following. So some certain GPA requirements for our applicants. English proficiency exams are also required for those whose native language is not English. And if you had questions about those exams, our graduate admissions department can be really helpful with that. So when submitting transcripts, a few things to consider. If you've previously attended UAlbany, you don't need to request UAlbany transcripts. Those would be automatically added to your application through graduate admissions. When we're looking at your GPA, we are looking at GPA from all institutions and levels of higher education. When you're applying, you can upload an unofficial transcript and your application would be reviewed. We would just need official transcripts upon admission. And on our graduate admissions website, so it's called the Graduate School is the name of the office where graduate admissions is housed. Transcripts can be mailed to them, and they have on their website some really great instructions on how to submit not only transcripts, where to mail them to, where to email them to, but also how to complete or submit all of the different aspects of the online application. Letters of recommendation are submitted directly through the application portal. Basically, you provide contact information for your recommenders, and they receive a link in their email, and then they can click on that link and submit a letter on your behalf that automatically gets placed with your application. We recommend the letters of recommendation be specific to the program that you're applying to whenever possible. And we ask for letters of recommendation from professors. We ask for 2. Sorry, there's a typo on there. So we're looking for those who are familiar with your academic work, who are able to speak to your academic capabilities and evidence you can succeed in a PhD program. The other letter of recommendation can come from an individual who's observed you in a professional context. My personal recommendation is always to give recommenders plenty of notice. So now, if you're planning to apply for that January deadline, now is a great time to ask. I always hate when that's the last piece of the application that they're waiting on. So they've submitted everything else, but they're waiting on letters of recommendation from someone else. So I always say maybe give them a hard deadline of January 1st if you want to have your application submitted by January 15th, so that that piece is taken care of ahead of when you wish to submit. And I, just as a person who writes letters of recommendation, a deadline can be helpful as long as somebody's given me enough notice. Your statement of goals or any written component of a graduate application helps us as at the institution, part of with the program, to determine your fit for the program, to see what you can offer the program, but also evaluate your writing skills. And for you, this is your chance to talk about yourself, to highlight your background, your skills, why you're pursuing this program, what are your professional goals, what do you hope to get out of the program, what's your research interest or area of specialization. Your statement of goals should reflect your knowledge of and interest in doctoral studies in educational psychology. It should be purposeful and to the point, typically 1 to 2 pages. I always recommend students to do their research on the program that they're applying to, and so that you can speak to your reasoning for applying to this program in particular. Why this program? There are lots of helpful online resources to help you write a statement of goals. And your previous institution or even your current institution's career center can also provide great guidance or a writing center on helping you to write those. GRE scores are optional at this time. You can find a testing site or take the GRE at home if this is something that you're interested in including as part of your application through ETS, Educational Testing Services. I believe that's what it stands for. Some frequently asked questions. How long does this program typically take? So it depends on a few different factors. PhD study can vary in length, regardless of which program you're pursuing. The typical completion time of a PhD program is 4 years of full-time study, but there are a lot of things to consider. Are you going full-time or part-time? Do you have additional life commitments? The number of transfer credits that you're able to bring in, your own personal time management and motivation skills, your research and dissertation plans, all of those things can create variations in the time that it takes to complete the program. But all requirements for the doctoral degree must be completed within 8 years from the start of your program. Can the program be done part-time? Yes, obviously going part-time will lengthen the time to completion. The 8-year statute of limitation is still in place for part-time students. There is no formal residency requirement for this program, but students must spend some sessions working closely with faculty, and continuous registration is required, although a leave of absence can be granted when needed. How are courses offered? There are many in-person courses. However, we do offer online and hybrid courses as well. Online courses may be synchronous, asynchronous, or hybrid. Synchronous online and in-person courses are typically offered in the evenings. Although, Dr. Schlomer, are there other times that courses might be offered throughout the semester?
Yeah, so just this semester, I'm teaching my 750 course at 8:40 in the morning on a Monday. That's
Wow.
not, maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, but it is a daytime slot. We have another class that's being taught like on a Thursday afternoon, but the majority of classes will be in the evening, but with some smatterings of classes during the day.
Thanks. Can my previous graduate coursework count toward the program? The answer is yes. Previous applicable graduate coursework can count toward the PhD. Basically, after you enroll, you would work with an advisor to determine which of the courses that you've taken in the past could count toward the program. Things that are considered by your advisor would be the content. So is it related to the degree program that you're in? Performance in the course, I believe a B+ or better is required typically for graduate courses. And the length of time since the course was taken, sometimes depending on the content of the course, older courses aren't applicable anymore and might not be accepted. It's a case-by-case basis when it comes to those things. A lot of the questions that we receive, at least in my office, are related to funding graduate studies. So there's a couple of different things that I can touch upon, but I will always recommend students to ask their questions to our Office of Financial Aid and Student Accounts, or the graduate school has some great information on funding graduate studies. But through this program, there are departmental assistantships, which require full-time study and involve work with faculty, typically assisting with research or teaching. You must indicate on your application if you wish to be considered for an assistantship, and you aren't able to hold another job while holding an assistantship. And as I mentioned, you have to be a full-time student. There are also, so those are ones that are offered through the department, but there are also assistantships offered through the graduate school that are open to all graduate students. So if you didn't receive or didn't pursue a graduate assistantship through the department, you could also look into one through at the greater university level. There's university-wide scholarships, which you can learn about through our Office of Financial Aid. But then there are School of Education specific scholarships, which I like to highlight because you're applying against a smaller pool when it comes to the School of Ed scholarships. So oh wow, they've updated it. So there's information about the upcoming cycle. Typically, scholarships open up toward the end of the fall semester, either in November or December, and you are able to apply for these scholarships each year that you're in the program. And just to give you guys an idea, here is the scholarship list, which is very long. We're lucky enough to offer many, many scholarships, and you'll see that some of them are specific to different programs. And so maybe even a smaller pool of students that you're applying against, but basically you can read the eligibility requirements for all students or for all scholarships, check off the ones that you believe you're eligible for, and you submit one application to be considered for all of the scholarships that you're able to check off. So I do just like to highlight that. They're donor-based scholarships, so they're typically not going to cover the entire cost of your tuition. If you're receiving an assistantship, they can help with the expenses of books or other things of that nature. But as I mentioned, the best place to reach out for information about tuition, fees, payment plans, scholarships, aid would be the Financial Aid and Student Accounts Office. To find more information, this is the program page for the PhD in Educational Psychology. I'm sure that you visited here already if you're interested in this program. But just some information on this page, information about the program of study, which we talked a little bit about earlier in the presentation, about funding, about life on campus. And then also this is where you'll find the more detailed information about the deadlines and the required application materials, and then any special information. So that's the program page, but then I also recommend that you check out the department or the division page. And here you can find, so this is the Department of Educational Counseling and Psychology. So this is the department page. And you can find information about the different programs offered. You can find information, student resources for educational psychology. But what I really like to highlight is as you scroll down, you can find information about our faculty and staff. So you can find information about their research interests, about their professional accomplishments. And just to pick on Dr. Schlomer, we can scroll on down and find his, when you click on their name, you can read a little bit more about their specialty and learn about whether their research interests align with your own. And you can even indicate on your statement of goals if there's a specific faculty member whose work really excites you or interests you. The graduate bulletin provides some more information about the program, the admission requirements, some of the things that I detailed, and the program requirements. So this is a more detailed view of what's required to complete the program. Also, another great resource is my office, the PI Center, Pathways into Education. If after this meeting, after you have additional questions, you need help with anything, you can reach out to us and we will do our best to answer your question or connect you with the person who can. We meet with students via Zoom. We're very quick with our email, so jot down our email address and reach out if you need anything at all. We did have some pre-submitted questions, only a few. So just a couple of quick things that we can touch upon, and then I can open it up to questions for anyone who's here with us today. We had a student who submitted a PhD application and haven't gotten any notification yet. Dr. Schlomer, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so we don't actually look at the applications until after the deadline of January 15th. So, you know, the way that works, the review is done by a committee of individuals. I'm, as the division director, always on that committee, but we have somebody else who chairs it. So there might be the chair is in there monitoring what applications that we have, but we don't actually start reading them and going through them and talking amongst ourselves about them until after the deadline when we have all of the applications. So you shouldn't expect to hear anything in terms of an offer or no offer or follow-up kinds of questions until after that date.
Thank you. And then someone else asked about scholarship opportunities, but I think we've touched upon that in the presentation. So my presentation is done. So I just want to open it up to any questions that any of our prospective students here might have. Don't be shy. If there aren't any questions, Dr. Schlomer, is there anything that you wanted to add that maybe I didn't touch upon?
One thing that that always comes up is the assistantships. So I want to maybe mention that briefly. The way that the assistantships work is every year we have a certain number of assistantships, and it's based on the total number of students that we have in a given program in the program at a given time. So the number of assistantships that we have per year tends to be relatively low, and it is a competitive process. So what we do in the review process is we go through everybody's materials. We have a discussion amongst ourselves, amongst the faculty about the applicants. If you make a certain threshold, we'll do a one-on-one interview with the applicants. It's usually two-on-one, two faculty and at least and one candidate. And then once we have that process all complete, we rank order our applicants from top to bottom. And the ones who are on the top, those are the ones who get offers with funding first, and those who are lower down get secondary priority. So you may have a very strong application and a very meritorious application, but because it is a competitive process, it's not always the case that you're going to get an offer with funding. That said, sometimes we'll send out offers without funding, and you can choose if you want to come without funding. And then depending on where you're at in the rank list, if somebody were to decline that we did offer funding to, we go down the list of, okay, well, who's next in terms of the people who we would offer funding to. So just to be clear that the assistantship is not a guaranteed thing, and it is a competitive process.
We had a really good question asking what our favorite part about being at the university is. I might be able to offer a unique perspective because I was also a student at the university not too long ago. I actually have my master's in educational psychology and methodology from this department. I earned that degree while in the school psychology program, but sort of switched gears after I completed my practicum. And I went into higher education, and then I later did my PhD in educational policy and leadership. But what I like about being at UAlbany, I went to a small high school and a small undergraduate school, and I was a little bit nervous about attending such a large university, but um, the School of Education feels like a really small community within a larger institution, where you know everyone and there's a feeling of camaraderie amongst everyone, and everyone's just sort of like friendly and nice to work with. So I enjoyed that feeling of smallness, like within the larger institution, that sort of made me sort of want to stick around. And that's why even after I finished my program, I work here now. So they're not getting rid of me yet. And yeah, so that's my answer. But Dr. Schlimmer.
I'd say the faculty. We have a lot of really good faculty within and outside of the division who are very strong in their respective fields, who are very knowledgeable about the areas that they have expertise in. We have somewhat of a diverse set of orientations. Some people are more specifically in educational psychology, the kind of the traditional ed psych sort of stuff. Some of us are more into human development. I do human development things. For example, I specialize in adolescent development and like aggression and delinquency in adolescence, but I also have a genetic spin on that research. So a lot of stuff that I do looks at those things, but I also incorporate, DNA and epigenetics in my research as well. So I think the thing that kind of ties us all together is our focus on really strong methodology and statistical orientation. So this PhD program really is about training you to be able to do research. And that's the thing that we most certainly have in common across all of us, is that we're all very strong methodologically and statistically, and you can get a great training in those things in this program.
Thank you. Another question. When considering assistantships, what is typically looked for in the applications?
So, we consider the applications without respect to assistantships, but we're looking more holistically at the strength of the application based on all of the factors that we examine. So we do take a look at your GPA. We do take a look at your letters of recommendation. We take a look at your writing in terms of your statements. We look at one of the things that we definitely look at is the fit that you have to the program. So sometimes, and that's why I emphasize that what we do here is train you to be able to do research, because sometimes we have people who submit their application and think they're going to take classes in pedagogy and learn how to be, a college teacher. And we will do some of that along the way. In fact, we have a class where we essentially teach you how to teach, but it's just one class. The focus isn't on teaching you how to teach in the entire program. The focus is on teaching you how to do research. And if you want to do research on teaching, great, that's fine. But our focus isn't on that aspect in particular. It's more, again, in the research and statistical realms. Does that answer the question? What was the question?
It was about assistantships. Oh, no, sorry. I can't remember. When considering assistantships, what is typically looked for in the applications? That was
just the overall strength of the application. Yeah, and those are the things that we look at. Letters of recommendation, your statements, we look at GPA, those kinds of things, but we look at you holistically.
How many students of those who apply are typically offered a place in the program? Is there an interview as part of the application review process?
So the number of students that we take, the number of applications that we get varies from year to year, and the number of students that we take varies from year to year based on the number of funding slots that we have available. So a couple of years ago, we took 5 students with funding, but that's created a situation now where we're taking fewer students in later years because now we have those 5 students on funding. And so I think last year we took 3 students with funding offers. And then I think this year we're set to do another 2 or 3 with funding offers. As to the number of applicants, it really varies. And it's hard to really say, how sometimes you just get a bunch of spam, and I think that's true of any program. So it depends on how you want to count. But in terms of the number that we offer admission to with funding at the very beginning, and we offer students admission without funding as well. But if we just think about the funding ones, I would say on average, it's 2 to 4 a year.
So I'm currently pursuing a master's in ed psych, which is 30 credits. I read it on one of the slides that about 30 plus doctoral credits are required for PhD. So doctoral specific courses, I think, is if that might be what you're referring to. My question is if that will be classroom-based coursework or covered in assistantship work. So the assistantship isn't for credit. So it would be coursework, right?
Yeah, so the assistantship is essentially your tuition is either covered or reimbursed, and you get a small stipend. The amount of work that you're doing is equivalent essentially to a part-time job. So you have 20 hours per week that you're essentially working for us. You'll get assigned to a faculty member. The way that I try to do it, I think it works out best, is you'll get an advisor, and then you'll have your GA time, your graduate assistantship time with your advisor. And then your advisor, or whoever it ends up being that you're doing your time with, can choose to use your time in ways that they see fit. So some people will have students TA a couple of classes. Sometimes people will use them completely for a research assistantship. So they'll have them working on the faculty member's research. Probably most common is a split. So I'll have a student, for example, TA one of the classes that I teach instead of both. And then I'll use the rest of their time for working with me on my research. So doing a TA ship is roughly 10 hours per week. It's 20 hours a week total. So you'd be a TA for a class and then working on research with a faculty member.
Thank you. We had another question about if you're admitted, if you apply and don't receive an assistantship, can you apply again for the funding?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer to that. I think
So I think procedurally, like grad school policy wise, you're allowed to, but I don't know. The program probably also has discretion over that as well.
yeah, I would imagine that we have discretion over that. So that would be a unique situation. So I'm trying to think scenarios and what would work out best. So what do you, one of the things that you can do if you apply to the PhD program, you can choose an option in the submission process where it will ask you if you want to be considered for like a different program. So you can check an option to say, well, if I don't get accepted into the PhD program, can my application be considered for the master's program? And so that's what I would suggest a student do if they don't already have a master's with us. I know there's a unique situation where we already have our master's student, but this would be a scenario where you're coming straight from undergrad and you're applying to the PhD program. It turns out that you maybe got accepted, but without funding. You could come and do the PhD program without funding, but a better situation might be to go for the master's program and then reapply to the PhD program that following year. I think you would get a stronger due consideration of funding that way than you would if you were already in the PhD program and then you were somehow applying. Like we don't have a formal process that I know of where students who come without funding can then apply for funding. But if you're applying to the PhD program, that could be a mechanism for you to actually do that if you came in and matriculated into the master's program first.
Thanks. Do we have any other questions? I'm going to put the Pi Center email in the chat so that you can reach out if you think of anything else after we end the session today. But y'all had some really, really great questions, and we appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today and learn about this program. And hopefully we'll see some applications come through, maybe even see some of you on campus or as a student, in the following years.
Yeah, I look forward to reading all your applications.
Yeah, thank you for answering all the questions.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.